This comes from KIVI in Boise, Idaho. A child killed in a random shooting.
One child is dead and an Emmett man is charged with first-degree murder following what police are calling a random shooting last night in Horseshoe Bend. Police were called to a mobile home on Canyon Street about 10:30 after reports of a man firing numerous shots into the residence. The man then reportedly rammed his car into a propane tank near the mobile home.
My wife went out on the porch and she heard more gunshots. So we ran over here, and that was right after the guy ran his car into the propane tank.
Officers and neighbors were able to pull the suspect from the vehicle. He was then taken into custody. A child described as younger than 12 was hit by one of the rounds and died at the scene. Two others in the mobile home at the time were not injured. Police identified the suspect as 44-year-old Benjamin Poyer of Emmett. Reports say he did not know the people in the mobile home. The victim's name has not yet been released.
This one is really tragic, but I'm wondering how important is it to find out why in this one? Obviously, the case is solved. You've apprehended the person, plenty of witnesses, everything else. But and Donald Schweitzer, you know, I got most of my training from cop shows growing up, watched tons of them through the years. And usually when there's a mystery, the police are always like looking for a motive and opportunity, right? Who has a motive, who had an opportunity. But here, we've already solved it, but we're still looking for that motive, that why. How important is that?
It's very important, Vinny. The officers have to help the DA a little bit in this case, right? The first thing you don't want to do is allow him to go into custody and lawyer up without trying to get a statement from him. We want to know whether or not he specifically intended on firing that gun at that trailer. We want to take away any self-defense claims that he might have. You know, he could claim that he was he was a victim and somebody was shooting at him and he was shooting back. He could come up with all kinds of wild stories. So the officers need to try to interview him right at the scene and try to get his side of the story. Chances are it would make the difference between something like, you know, reckless homicide or possibly second-degree murder. I mean, if he's purposely pointing his gun and firing into a dwelling like a cowboy, well, he's going to go down for that. But the officers need to help the DA in this case.
Yeah, and we know, limited information about this, but Jennifer, I think you mentioned it as well. And it seems in the last two stories we're talking about suspects that may have some level of mental illness or mental issues that they're dealing with and trying to handle. That's a big part of what police officers need to deal with out in the public day in and day out. Not easy stuff.
No, it is not easy, and our officers have a lot of training to handle that. People with all sorts of mental illnesses or problems. So it is tough to be out there on the streets, and it's tough to keep everyone safe, but that's the job of our officers, and they do a really, really good job at that.
Yeah, Donald, I want to give you the last word on that because it seemed to be a little bit of a theme tonight. Suspects who have some level of mental illness. And from my perspective, from the outside looking in, it would seem they would be the most dangerous because they're the most unpredictable.
Vinny, the hardest thing about being a police officer is self-restraint. We, the public, put people out there to protect us and put them in very dangerous situations. They've got to make split decisions, and being able to make the right decision under such pressure is the hardest thing to do. So self-restraint is hard. We've seen that in this SWAT situation. And in this particular case with this drunken, deranged person, you would think that the officers probably showed a lot of restraint in apprehending him as well.
Donald Schweitzer, Jennifer Shen, great to have you on the program. I'm sure we will see you again. Thanks so much.